UFC Ringside Nation, the Ring Boys are back. Full strength on the night. Happy to be back. Boys, how we feeling? How was the weekend?
Busy weekend. I'm glad it was Monday for once, actually. It was nice to not to be like running around like crazy.
Doc, how's the weekend?
Yeah, it was a good weekend. I had family come over, so that's why I couldn't make it to the last recording. But we're back and excited to talk about the fights.
Speaking of fights, we'll get right into it. UFC 302. Myself and Artie hitting his lock while Doc struggled again. Might be cursed, but we'll get back soon. I'm sure he'll be back full strength. I won the card 9 for 12. Artie 8 for 12. Doc also 8 for 12. Yearly pay-per-view accuracy, Artie 48 for 75, myself 50 for 75, Doc 43 for 75. Bringing you guys to a yearly overall of Artie 124 for 221, myself 135 for 221, Doc 125 for 221. And knowing you guys, you probably think those numbers are wrong, so go back and do the calculations. I did them this morning. I'm a numbers guy. That's it is. And yeah, that's the numbers from the Ring Boys, and we'll get right into the fights for you boys right away. It's not a shock that Islam Makhachev, a ringer from the Ring Boys, defeating Dustin Poirier. And in the great words of Artie, it was a fight. I think Dustin did pretty well. Islam Makhachev ends up getting the submission by grabbing him by the ankle and throwing him around and getting his back. And to say that Islam dominated him would be kind of fibbing. There were points where I thought Dustin definitely showed life. You know, he did have some good takedown defense, in my opinion. It's tough when you're trying to beat the over 35 curse and your daughter's ringside and you get a loss, but it's Islam Makhachev. He's arguably pound for pound the number one fighter. Unless you ask Dana White, it's still somehow John Jones, but I'm sure Artie will back up that statement here. No?
Yeah, I mean that was literally insane. That when I saw that tweet, I could not believe it, and I could not believe Dana would say that after the fight, like right after the fight. I know he's like a fan just like the rest of us because this is what he loves. That's why he's doing it, but wild.
Doc?
You want me to
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
No, Doc, go ahead. That's all right. I'll talk more about it.
Sure. So I think although it wasn't an easy fight for Islam, it was another fight where at no point was I concerned about Islam losing. And although he did get cut up, and we haven't seen that before, I thought that he was in thorough control of the fight. And we knew that if he needed to get it down to the wrestling, he could do that. But he seemed to have held off a bit more to show that he has improved his striking. And he might have outstruck Dustin Poirier, which no one was expecting. So if you have the best wrestler in the division and now you are able to outstrike some of the best strikers in the division, there's not much for him to do in the lightweight division, and that's why he wants to go up to welterweight. I do want to see him fight Arman Tsarukyan. I think he can finish Arman Tsarukyan at this point. People say that Tsarukyan has crazy power, is able to get out of really bad positions. He was able to do that against Oliveira. He will not be able to do that against Islam Makhachev. He is not as good as Habib, I think, still in this lightweight division, but he's very close. And I never thought that we would have somebody like that. That ankle pick that he did was beautiful. He did that in the 5th round. His cardio is insane. I think that in one of the fights against Volkanovski, in the first fight, his cardio was no longer there after Volk stopped a bunch of his takedowns, but he's clearly been working on that. He says that he's not thinking about retirement because he keeps on getting better with every single gym session, and we see that with these fights. I want to see him at welterweight, but he needs to finish off this lightweight division. He doesn't have to do it a second time around. There's no point. He is clearly the best lightweight right now. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing him fight again. But in my opinion, although it wasn't a dominating win, it was another win where my heart was not racing thinking that he's going to lose. I was just waiting for him to get the finish, and that was a beautiful finish. If only it was a guillotine, but we'll settle for the Darce.
Yeah, it was an incredible fight, and I think a lot of what was missed, and Islam did talk about it, is he did take a week off of training because of the staph infection. He did confirm it. So, it maybe showed a little bit in his cardio, because when I was watching this, like maybe halfway through the 3rd and getting into the 4th, he was definitely slowing down, but he did prove that undoubtedly he is the best lightweight, and I don't know that really there could be any more argument. I am excited for the Arman fight. But how cool would it be if we could get Khabib before he retired to go against Islam right now, both in their prime? That would be something absolutely sick, like some fantasy fight. But outside of that, Dustin Poirier is still, you know, I know he's hinted at retirement, but I definitely think he still has a little bit of life in the UFC. And I know he said some things like he doesn't want the sport to retire him, which is definitely the right way to go about it. But this was not a bad fight from him. And I know Volkanovski threw something out there, but anyway, it was just good from Dustin. Good to see him out there again in the shorts and the walkout music. It was good.
Fight of the night and performance of the night for Islam Makhachev, an easy 100K right there. As you mentioned, hopefully Islam Arman's the next fight. That's personally what I want to see. I want to see that before we try to put Islam against Leon. I feel like we got to get a couple more title defenses on the books there. Hopefully this isn't the end of the road for Dustin Poirier. I agree. I think there are some fights that he could definitely make. And he obviously hinted, he spent his whole life fighting for a title, so he doesn't know anymore. But I don't think he's going to go out that way. I think he's going to take some time. He's going to miss the sport too much, and he's going to get back in the ring hopefully soon. But you never know in the world of MMA, so we'll have to wait and see. The other thing I was going to say was I feel bad for Dustin. Like, he had to go through Islam, Charles, and then who else did he have to fight? Like some of the best lightweights that have had the title, and he's just got it, the short end of the stick every single time. So you hate to see it, and yeah.
His 9 losses are insane. It's like Conor, Islam, Khabib, Charles. The numbers are crazy. So
HE.
Yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully we're not singing country roads yet for Dustin. We see him soon. Moving along again, co-main, Sean Strickland defeating Paulo Costa via split decision. Crazy judging on that, which we'll get to in a moment. Want to formally apologize we didn't talk on the pre-show that this was going to be 5 rounds because we didn't know, because we were busy, because we actually work and have lives. How about you boys go touch some grass? Like, what are you, a cop?
I did also say when we were recording the pre-show that if it was Sean Strickland in 5 rounds, I would have picked him. So I would like I'd like one more pick on this card.
No. This isn't the fantasy draft. You don't get a take back. But yeah, Sean Strickland, not a dominating a performance in my perspective. When you watch the fight, it seems like he never really gassed and he had full control. You never really worried or sweated, kind of, if you were riding with Strickland. But his style, man, is just so awkward. The high knees, you never know what he's going to throw at you. Holding the Philly shell, the guy's just made to go 5 rounds, whether he's going for a finish or not. And it's really hard to read him and get in the swing of things. And it doesn't seem that Paulo Costa got to really win many exchanges. He did have some good counters. He looked gassed. He looked tired. Pretty sure at one point he didn't know which corner to go to. And yeah, Mr. Hair Transplant, as I like to call him, couldn't get it done. Artie?
Yeah, Paulo, there were points where I think he was starting to kind of piece it together because he would stop walking backwards and he would actually stand in the middle with Sean. And that's where he found most of his success. The leg kicks were there. He definitely went to the body a bunch, but this just proves that Sean Strickland's fighting style is just something that most people are not accustomed to. And it's kind of weird because how do you train for something like that? And I think the DC and Joe kept pointing out that Paul was definitely losing a lot of gas just walking backwards the whole time. But I feel like for Paulo Costa, he didn't look all that terrible. Going into the 5th, I thought he was going to be completely gassed by the end of the 3rd. But I think the times where he did stand in the middle definitely helped him out with that. But yeah, Sean said he's on to gold, and I really don't blame him. I'd like to see maybe a rematch, or I think either way it would be a rematch because I think he said I want Izzy if he's the champion, or I want Duplessis if he's the champion. So we'll see what happens next. The other thing, which was wild to me, I woke up this morning and I was just kind of scrolling through socials. Paulo Costa's like, next time I'm fighting, I'm taking heads off. It's like, dude, you could have done that here. You could have beat Sean at his own game and maybe threw him off a little bit. And I don't know if that's like the right way to go about it after the fight happened, to be saying things like that. But I guess I don't know. I'd be excited to see that, because I think this will probably put Paulo Costa a little further down in the rankings at middleweight. So we might have to see some more exciting things from him for him to really make it back up to get these types of opportunities again.
I'm glad you brought up what you said at the end, where Paulo said that he should be taking heads off. It's gotten to a point where we've forgotten Paulo Costa, that was like 13-1 or whatever he was before he fought Israel Adesanya. I don't think that he can do it anymore. I mean, we haven't seen him. We didn't see it against Robert Whittaker. We didn't see it against Sean Strickland. He's supposed to be an exciting fighter, and he's been so defensive, so timid, and I really don't know why. But I'm beginning to question whether or not he has it in him anymore. He was out of the ring for 2 years, canceling fights left and right, said all he wanted to say about Khamzat Chimaev, didn't ever fight him. And in this fight, he didn't show any sort of aggression. He was definitely the defensive fighter. He was the bigger guy in there. He can punch harder than Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland always talks about how he has pillow hands, which is very true, except for the fight against Izzy. But he's consistent. He keeps on throwing punches. Doesn't his cardio never wavers. And Paulo Costa was either scared or he just doesn't have it in him anymore. So good performance for Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland wins by decision often, and we want to see him win by stoppage. And I don't know when we'll get to see that, but I saw some commentary saying that fans are going to grow old, or no longer want to hear that Sean Strickland's talking about battle to the death, fight to the death, rip someone's head off, kill someone in the ring. He just doesn't do that. So it's exciting to hear, but both these fighters need to get more exciting. But the level of skill that Sean Strickland has is unbelievable.
John Strickland surpassing Angela Hill with this to be second most in significant strikes landed in UFC history, with 2,069 behind Max Holloway, obviously, who has like 3,300. It's just insane to me how like behind he is from first place. That just shows level how great Max is. But yeah, I agree with you boys fully. Sean Strickland, very awkward fighter, tough to read, tough to beat. And he's gonna sit and he's gonna wait for that title shot. We'll see him ringside, and yeah, hopefully a couple more clips. I hope no one ends up on his driveway, and I hope Artie has another point to make here.
Yeah, Doc, to what you were saying, that like it doesn't look very exciting, and he's not doing what he said he's going to do in the ring. It's a very good point, but I also think it shows his level of skill, that he's not going in there and being completely reckless and just getting knocked down, or he is a very controlled fighter, and it's because of his like how defensive he is. So I do think there's some skill to the fact that even though he's not getting knockouts and it's not extremely exciting, he's fighting at like the highest level that he can be for himself. So that's the only way I can look at it.
Yeah, I don't doubt the skill. I just think about Yoel Romero and his quick demise. I'm not saying that Sean Strickland is Yoel Romero, but Yoel Romero was very defensive for a while, and people were scared of him, and those fights did not go anywhere. It was just a staring contest for a while.
This is true. What wasn't a staring contest was Kevin Holland against Malachechuk, and another ringer from the Ring Boys, and my luck of the card hits. I'm surprised they didn't score it a knockdown, because Michal Olachichuk rocked Kevin Holland. He ends up going on his ground. Kevin Holland uses his lengthy body to just mitigate Michal from getting on top of him, and then somehow gets this disgusting armbar where I don't know, did he actually end up breaking his arm? Was that confirmed, or was it dislocated? I never really looked into it, but he just, what a dog Kevin Holland is. Like, where was this wrestling when we went against MVP? But Kevin Holland doing what Kevin Holland does. I didn't expect any less. When he got knocked down, I did get a little worried, but I had a feeling he would recover. I didn't have a feeling he would pull that out of the bag. But that arm bar was disgusting. That was, showed me, that gave me flashbacks of like Ronda Rousey days. But yeah, Kevin Holland getting it done. Nothing more to say, Artie?
Yeah, exactly. And somebody was saying to me how it was calling was not sure why they stopped the fight, like as his arm was dangling. Like it was disgusting. Also, brother, if you're that close, just tap. It is your career on the line because you never know if something way worse could happen with the break. And we have a doctor on the pod who could tell us more about that. But like, it's just insane to me. He knew it was happening. He like Kevin gave him the time to tap. He looked at him and he said, "Are you serious, brother?" And then he went for it. So yeah, I don't know. It was wild to me, but yeah, another dub for Kevin Holland. I don't like that he said that he's going to be the greatest gatekeeper in the division. He's 31. He's ranked 15. His own his way isn't the only way up. And I'd be more excited to see him back at welterweight than middleweight. He looks a little bit faster. So looking forward to more big mouth fights.
So this was nice for me because this was my first 5-pointer, I believe, on the fantasy draft. Kevin Holland, super active fighter, finally coming off his 2-fight losing streak, and did it in excellent fashion. Yeah, that should have been a knockdown. I agree. But as soon as it got to the ground, I knew that his black belt in BJJ was going to come out. I'm glad to see that he got the finish. The moment where he looks Herb Dean in the face and is like, "Do I have to do this?" And then just pulls a little bit harder, and gets no tap, just the technical submission. I don't think it was broken. It kind of looked dislocated to me, especially because Oleksiejczuk, he wasn't like screaming in pain. Uh, that being said, it looked disgusting afterwards when he was unable to really put any weight on it or move it. Great fight. Oleksiejczuk has tons of power. That's why I picked him to win in his last fight, but he didn't get to land those big shots. So let's see where Kevin Holland goes from here. We know that he's going to fight as much as possible. He wants to fight Nick Diaz now in October if Vicente Luque can back out. So let's all hope and pray for that.
Yeah, I know Kevin Holland said in his presser after, he said he felt the pop. So joked around, said it was Herb's fault, and Herb was like, "Yeah, you got to go a little longer." And he was, "All right, cool, bang." That was, man, I feel like that's gonna be submission of the year for me when we do the award show at the end of the year. From a highlight, Doc, I'm glad you got your 5 points. I also got 5 points in this card, so no big deal. To a low light in Alex Morono's abysmal performance, I'd call it, against Nico Price, and clearly not working on the stamina. Just seemed to gas out a little early. I thought Alex Morono, had ways to get back into the fight. He didn't really dial in too much, and he was striking a lot. And Artie, I don't mean to skip over you, but this was Doc's lock of the card, so I want him to go first and tell us what went wrong.
Yeah. Well, the first thing that went wrong was that I picked him for my lock of the card, and I want to personally apologize to Alex Morono because I need to stop doing this kind of stuff. I didn't realize that he took this fight on short notice, and the thing is that Alex Morono normally doesn't look like the most fit guy in the ring, but his cardio tends to hold up. So I thought that he just works on it on the outside, and the cardio just wasn't there. That being said, in that first round, he had Nico Price in a disgusting position, and I can't believe he didn't finish that submission. That like omoplata on one side with like the neck on the other side. It was crazy. So it was a super exciting moment in the first round, but then after that, it was clear that in the second round he was open mouth breathing and didn't have enough in the tank. I can only imagine that with a full fight camp, with a full chance at working on his cardio, he would have beaten Nico Price. But this is a very big setback, unfortunately, for a guy that was on the up, that looked great in that first round. So sorry for the miss.
What happens, Artie?
Yeah, I'm like you said, Alex Morano is somebody who's usually pretty consistent in the way that he performs, and I do think he usually gets a lot of his fights on short notice. So just like you, I was surprised the fact that his cardio gave out, but it also shows that like wrestling and jujitsu and submission attempts and everything takes a lot of your stamina out. So I have even more and more praise for guys who can come out there and perform at a very high level while also just throwing in wrestling into the mix. So Nico Price, I'm sorry. I don't mean to, I didn't mean to doubt like that, but yeah, like you said, kind of sad for a guy that was definitely on an up and up. But I'm sure we'll see Alex Morano again.
As I like to say, Nico Price, I was not familiar with Cho game. I mean, this isn't a fight that's going to end up on either guy's highlight reel. It's, it wasn't the most fun, most exciting to watch, but, Nico Price got the win. Technically a second over Alex Morono after the knockout, but I'm pretty sure he failed a drug test for marijuana, so that got overturned, so they made this back. And hopefully we don't have to watch this for a trilogy. And that's the way she goes. Moving along, we got another miss from the Ring Boys, as I'd like to call it. Now, I will say, before I pass it to Artie, I'm bringing it up, don't worry. I convinced you back behind the scenes. I was like, I don't know about Randy Brown. Dos Santos beat BSD. I know he was BSD before he became BSD. And Artie was like, you know what? You're right. I'm changing my pick. And he changed his pick. So he missed on this one. I'm sorry for that one. Dos Santos had a lot of really good positions where he had Randy Brown, in a rear naked choke. Maybe too sweaty, maybe, not dialed in enough. And then Randy Rude Boy Brown just said, hold my beer, my turn. Got the choke in return and ended up getting the decision and the win in an epic miss on this one. And I'm sorry, Artie, you can yell at me now. Go ahead.
So I changed my pick because I remember that actually he was the guy that drew with Fakhardinov in a fight that was super exciting on the feet. But at this time, Randy Brown, and I think it definitely has to do with the length at this point, but he could not figure him out. And Randy Brown 100% beat him on the feet. He definitely got the second round with the control, but just Randy Brown, I keep picking against him and I lose every single time. So I was like, you know what? I'll pick with him. And then I changed my mind last minute. So I don't think I'm ever doing that again. I'm just going to stick with my picks that I make every Wednesday or Thursday, whenever I usually put them in. And I'm going to go forward with that from now on. Doc.
It was a good win for Randy Brown, but the biggest takeaway for me from this fight was that the new gloves are not doing what they're meant to do. This fight, in my opinion, would be completely different if it wasn't for the 3 eye pokes that Randy Brown did on Dos Santos. Dos Santos had him in a very bad position in that second round, and I think that the first round would have gone completely different if he didn't get poked over and over and over again. And what was shocking to me was that in the third round, he poked him again in the eye and no point was taken. I think that there needs to be a standard here with the refereeing where there's sometimes that points get taken after 2 eye pokes. But after 3 eye pokes, after getting warned multiple times, after getting gloves that are supposed to help you against getting these eye pokes, I think a point could have been taken in that final round and this could have been a draw because these eye pokes, to me, changed the outcome.
I agree wholeheartedly. I think it was the Andre Lima fight too, where there were a couple eye pokes too. Sean Strickland saying he doesn't like the gloves, and Islam saying he doesn't like the gloves either. So, not off to a hot start with the 3-8 and the 5-8 gloves, whatever you want. I mean, just like black and gold, black on the outside, gold lettering. That would look better. But we need to work on the dynamic and the performance of that. So, hopefully next weekend, we get some more, of a sample size, and we actually see the gloves coming into effect and what they intended with it. But man, if these gloves ruin the rest of the year for us, I'm not going to be happy. But this can be a completely random shout out. One other reason why I wanted to pick Dos Santos, if you guys remember back at 295 when we first started the pod, Matthias Rebecki fought Roosevelt Roberts, and Rebecki was 5'7", and Roosevelt Roberts was 6'2", and I was like, is he long enough where he won't be able to get him to tap? But I just forgot how trash Roosevelt Roberts is, and I was like, you know what? Size doesn't matter. If you're really going to be able to submit him, all you need is the neck. It doesn't matter how long you are. And this showed that it doesn't matter the length. It matters on the skill. And Dos Santos didn't have it to get it done. That's your UFC 302 main card from Newark, New Jersey. Just run through the early prelims and the prelim results for you all. Doc, hit the bell for Roman Kopylov, Grant Dawson, and Andre Lima for us real quick. Ringers for the Ring Boys all across the board there. Jalton Almeida getting me my 5 points and submitting Alexander Romanov. Finally, he got nice of you to join us about time. I hate that I'm watching a Moldovan go down. That it hurts my heart. Grant Dawson beating Joe Selecki. Jake Matthews putting on a performance, proving me wrong, defeating Phil Rowe. Basil Hafez and defeats Mickey Gall. Doc picked Mickey Gall, which I'm sure he'll talk about here soon. Aylin Perez and Jocelyn Edwards, gator rolling all over the mat and just going the distance to finally end their beef. An awkward end post game or post conference interview, some twerking, some discussions. I don't know what was going on there. And then Andre Lima just not being a weight bully, but getting the job done over Mitch Raposo, hometown hero for Massachusetts, to all my Boston boys. So yeah, I mean, we won't go through each one of these fights. I'll just start off real quick. I wanted to talk about Jalton Almeida. He's 30 pounds, a little less than Romanov, and it's weird that he's fighting in heavyweight with a 260 max. But to me, he's strong as hell. He was able to get Romanov's back. I don't know if Romanov, was expecting him to get it that early, round one, but I did, and I'm glad Doc agreed with me. And I know the last point I want to talk about is Roman Kopylov absolutely getting back with a win and getting his career regenerated and defeating Cesar Almeida. I was going to pick Almeida. I switched. I rode with the boys, made it a ringer. I'm glad I did. Artie, what did you like to highlight from the prelims and early prelims as we go on here?
Definitely Roman Kopylov definitely showed huge improvements on the ground, being able to realize where he can utilize his wrestling. That was really big for him, and just another win for a guy who I think definitely deserves another shot at the top 15. So hopefully we see that soon again.
Doc?
For me, I'm going to talk about the Mickey Gall Vasil Hafez fight. I know that I got called out on the pre-show about this. The reason that I picked Mickey Gall was he was the hometown boy from New Jersey, but he had a long layoff. He showed off that he's worked on his jab and his striking, and he had a louder power in his hands. And the way that the fight went was not what I was expecting. Basil Hafez's last fight against Jack Della Maddalena was all wrestling, and that's how he, in my opinion, actually won that last fight. On short notice. Here, it was a lot of standing. It seemed like he did not want to take Mickey Gall to the ground. And I think it's wild that two of the judges scored at 30-27, given that Mickey Gall clearly won that last round. And I think that it would not have been wrong to even give Mickey Gall either the first or the second round. So I think at a minimum, this deserved a split decision. And Gall inflicted way more damage on Hafez, even though Gall was the one that had blood going down his face. So excellent fight, probably the second most interesting fight on this whole card. So I'm glad that we got to see it. In my opinion, this fight looked better for Gall for his future than it did for Hafez. Hafez gassed out here towards the end. So we'll see. We'll see where both these guys go from here. I really hope Gall doesn't get cut, given that his record is so bad. I think he put on enough of a performance to build his way back up in the UFC.
Well stated, boys. All right. That's your UFC 302 card. Next weekend, we got Jared Cannonier fighting Nazardine Imavov. Potentially a fight that Paul Costa could fight the loser of, in my opinion. Maybe we'll see a sneaky turnaround for that. But that's going to be a wrap from the Ring Boys. Anything you boys wanted to bring up before we end the pod here?
Yeah, I think this was more or less kind of a mid-card in my opinion. A lot of very good fighters fighting a lot of fighters who maybe were not as good and maybe not on the same level. Great Dawson, Jake Matthews. So yeah, great performances from a lot of guys, but I'm hoping that we get them in the top 15, just get them more competition, because it definitely doesn't look good when you come out there and you put up 100 more strikes than the other guys. So, Doc.
I have nothing else to say, really. I mean, it was a good card in my opinion. It could have been better. I think that we probably hyped it up more than what it displayed for us, but that's just because the level in the UFC that we've been seeing keeps on growing. The defense, people are learning their defense, people are learning their cardio. So I think going forward, having cards like 299, 300, unfortunately, will not be happening as often unless if we get some mismatches and some knockouts. So overall, the UFC is moving in the right direction. I really hope that these gloves don't impact things negatively. I don't think that they will, and if they do, then Dana will make an adjustment.
It's the gloves for me. It's the gloves for me. That's what I'm going to be watching. I hope, another 5-round fight next weekend with Jared Cannonier. Nice to see you. Glad you could join us for some fights this year. I think that's going to be the outline for me. And I'm a big, I want to really track these gloves and see what they do. Overall, fantasy, Artie in first with 23 points, Doc 20 points, myself with 12. We're getting some things shaken up. And some other things that are shaking up before we wrap up the pod here in the MMA world. Conor McGregor asking for a press conference in Dublin, getting the press conference in Dublin, and then canceling the press conference in Dublin. And a lot of questions on whether his partying is, coming into play here. Are we actually going to see this fight? What are you guys' reaction on Conor pulling out on the press conference the day of? Artie?
I don't think it's a big deal. I definitely think that they're probably... I know there will say unfortunate circumstances, whatever. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I don't think we should be too worried about whether the fight's happening or not, because I know it's going to be a big paycheck for the both of them. So there's no way that they would cancel it. And yeah, that's really all I have on it. I just feel bad for the fans that definitely plan to do this and people who wanted to make it out to it as well. People who are probably traveling, maybe. That's tough.
I'm treating this fight like I treat every single Paulo Costa fight. Until it is Saturday, I'm expecting the fight to get canceled, and if it's not canceled, then I'm happily surprised. I agree with Artie. Not too much to make of this, in my opinion. Conor McGregor said that he's even not going to be talking as much trash with the lead up to this fight. I don't know how much I believe that, but yeah. To me, not that big of a deal. Let's see what happens when the actual fight is on the line with a week left and stuff like that.
So if you really know me, you know how much I hate Conor McGregor now. When it was in his prime, it was fun to watch. Yeah, that's when I was watching the UFC and I loved it. But now with all of his antics, that horrible Roadhouse movie, and you got 2 fights left on the contract and you're trying to reach out to Dana to re-sign a contract, but you haven't gotten back in the ring since the leg break. I don't know. I do think this fight is going to happen. I don't think it's a big deal. I share that, empathy with you already on the fans, even though the tickets were free and people are already trying to resell them for like 260 pounds on Reddit. Like, get out the threads. But when you look at the month of June, you guys see the fights we have coming up. Like, I'm completely fine if this fight doesn't happen with Jared Cannonier, Movov, Alex Perez fighting Tetsuro Taira, our boy Ikram potentially fighting if they can swing it. And then we got Khamzat Chimaev fighting Robert Whitaker, Sergey Pavlovich fighting Alexander Volkov. The list goes on and on. There are a lot of good fights in June. And I think this summer is going to be one for the books. So I'm not too annoyed with it. That main card on 303 without that would look disgusting. They need that fight, or otherwise 303 pay-per-views are going to be hurt, and the fighters fighting on there may not get paid a lot, which would suck. Well, that's going to be a wrap. Anything else I missed here, boys, before we sign off?
I just thank you for all the support that we've been getting lately. I hope you guys enjoyed that first short of ours. We'll keep on pumping out more content for you. Like,
Artie?
comment, subscribe.
Artie?
Yeah, exactly. Please, the shorts are sick. I'm glad we got our editor, and I'm looking forward to seeing more. And I hope you are as well.
Absolutely. And shout out to the love from the pod. I think, episode ago or 2 episodes ago, we almost got 800 reviews or something crazy. Thank you so much. We do this for you, by the common man, for the common man. And that's it from the ringside. That's it from Ringside Nation and from the Ring Boys. Peace.